the forests of central China. Home to the golden snub-nosed monkey. They will not survive the fast-approaching winter unless they stock up on calorie-rich food. Top of their autumn menu, pine cones. They grew during the summer sunlight and are rich in fats. Few are now left, and time to gather them is running out. Dominant males patrol the troop, making sure they get the pick of the crop. As the number of pine cones dwindles, tensions between rival families increase. Mere threats between two males may not be enough to settle disputes. Conflict is in the air. There's going to be a fight. Vital food is at stake, so every pine cone is worth fighting for. The victor and his family enjoy the spoils of war. The losers get no more than a few dead leaves and will have fewer energy reserves for the coming winter. The red crabs of Christmas Island. They've spent the dry season sheltering in damp burrows beneath the leaf litter. Crabs breathe through gills that must be kept moist. So it's only with the return of the annual monsoon that these land crabs can finally emerge. With the humidity now high enough, they can begin an epic trek to the coast. Every red crab comes together from across the island, and they do so in their millions. 50 million, to be precise. They've come to release their eggs that can only develop in the ocean. There's just one small problem. They may be crabs, but they can't swim. They're scared of the sea. But they don't have a choice. They must release their eggs on the highest tide. Each carries around 100,000 eggs, so over just 2 or 3 nights, trillions are released into the ocean. Though some are more successful than others. Once their work is done, the crabs will return to the forest. A giant tortoise. These creatures can float and live without food or fresh water for long periods of time. This isolated atoll is the perfect refuge. Their only enemy is the sun. Without shade, a tortoise risks being boiled in his shell. So, after feeding in the cool of the morning, and before the sun becomes too crushingly hot, they have to find cover. All of them. There is very little vegetation, but caves in the coral rock can provide the shade they so badly need. He's nearly there. All that is left is a white knuckle ride to the bottom. And he's in. Thousands of others are still out in the sun. This tree could shade a couple of hundred if they pack tight. It's bumper-to-bumper parking. Within an hour or so, all must find shade of some sort if they're to survive. Safe. But the future for Aldabra's tortoises is far from certain. The climate is changing, sea levels are rising, and Aldabra's tortoises may soon have to find a new refuge or drown. Eden's whales have lived here for generations. But the world around them is changing. Today, agricultural pollution flowing from the land is beginning to suffocate this sea. Many fish now stay closer to the surface, where the waters still contain enough oxygen to survive. Eden's whales depend on these fish. They swallow huge quantities of water before filtering out their prey. It takes a lot of energy to drive their 15-ton bulk through the water. And with so few fish, the rewards from feeding like this are barely worth it. So, to survive here, the whales have developed a new hunting technique. One that requires almost no effort. They simply open their mouths and wait. The panicked fish jump right in. Swimming alongside, another whale scares even more into the open jaws. With this ingenious new technique, Eden's whales have found a way to survive the pressures they now face. All across the planet, animals are having to adapt to a changing world. But the speed of these changes will be too fast for many. If we could only halt our unrestrained plunder of the ocean, its habitats and species would recover. And at a time when our overexploited lands are already failing us, this has never been more important for humanity. Mother is after eggs. But getting them is not going to be easy. The geese will risk their lives to protect their eggs. If they lose them, they can't produce another clutch this season. The fox wins. She gives the first eggs to her young pups. And then heads back for more. Some of the eggs she stashes away. They will be food to help her through the coming winter. In just 3 weeks, she will steal over 800 eggs from the geese. But eating a big egg is not easy if one is rather small. It's a technique the pups haven't quite yet cracked. Mum shows how it's done. Now a few females appear. They're much bigger than the males and warming will take them longer. She releases a scent, a pheromone, that attracts the males. They outnumber her 100 to 1. To speed her own return to activity, she will absorb heat from them. Intoxicated by her scent, the males compete for her, wrapping themselves around her. She now has hundreds of males on top of her, making mating near impossible. But she has a way of weeding out the men from the boys. She'll make a daring ascent of the nearby cliff. She barges her way through the crowd to get to the rock face. As she climbs, only the strongest, fittest males can keep up with her. She's made it to the top. Only a few of her suitors have managed to rise to the occasion. And she may reward them all. 3 weeks ago, these mile-wide sandbars didn't exist. In another 3 months, they'll be back underwater. But now they provide a crucial opportunity for giant river turtles. They've been coming here at precisely this time of year for generations. "50,000 of them, a quarter of the world's population. They're all here for one reason. But their window of opportunity is short, so timing is everything. Scaling the 3-meter-high banks will take this female higher and drier than she's been for months. She's come here to lay her eggs, but others have beaten her to it. The early arrivals have already claimed nearly every inch of the beach. And there are still many more turtles to come. Wherever she turns, the space is taken. But being fashionably late does have an advantage. Had she arrived earlier, her eggs might have been dug up by those searching for somewhere to lay. She's found her spot. Settling down, she lays nearly 100 eggs. Burying them keeps them safe from predators, and the warm sand incubates the clutch. They must hatch before the river rises again and floods the sandbar. Any turtles that lay after her may have left it too late. Hopefully, she has got her timing right. Two months on, and the hatchlings emerge into the world. They were laid at the perfect time. Hundreds scramble for the river just as the water starts to rise. Those still to hatch aren't so lucky. A finch. A female. Its ancestors doubtless were blown here by storms many centuries ago. Like most finches, they feed on seeds, nectar and insects. But there's little food of any kind on wolf. And since they aren't strong enough flyers to leave the island, they've had to find food from a very unusual source. They depend on another of the island's inhabitants. Nazca boobies. Every day, these seabirds commute between the island and their fishing grounds out in the open ocean. Each time a pair meet, they renew their bond and then catch up with the neighbours. Now is the time to hop into action. Blood. They are vampire finches. These little birds have become one of the world's newest species. She cuts the quill of a large flight feather and the blood flows. The sight of it attracts the attention of others. Blood is very nutritious, worth fighting for. So, with this never-ending supply of food, the vampire finches can flourish on an island where otherwise they could not survive. Why the boobies don't object, nobody knows. Perhaps the finches' behaviour started when they helped the boobies to remove parasites from their plumage. Maybe the boobies think that the little vampires are still providing a service. Who can tell? Blacktip reef sharks. They are bigger and more powerful than trevally, but not as fast or as agile. The hardyheads are well aware of them, but so long as they stay just out of reach, they have little to fear. But now the sharks and the trevally join forces. Together, they enter the shallows, each looking for a chance to attack. The trevally make the first move, and the hardy-heads take refuge again in the waves. And this is what the sharks have been waiting for. Surging forwards, they chase the hardy-heads out of the water, beating themselves in a daring bid to hoover up their prey. The hardy-heads that escape the sharks swim back out to deeper water, but into the mouths of the trevally. Now the receding waves help to pull the sharks back into deeper water. The seabirds get their chance. It's a feeding frenzy in only 10 centimeters of water. In just 3 weeks, 500,000 calves are born on these ash-rich plains. That's 24,000 a day, 1,000 an hour. Calves stand up within a few minutes of being born, though some need a little more time to find their feet. But a mother won't let her calf suckle until it's mastered a few physical skills. Walking, trotting, and running. Wildebeest calves must run if they're to stay alive. For these plains also support the greatest assembly of hunters on the planet. Each species has its own special hunting technique, but all have the same aim: to make the most of this brief superabundance of life. wildebeest calves will survive to adulthood. But that is enough to maintain the million-strong herd of wildebeest and the planet's highest density of predators. This far ant has reached the edge of her known world. Her way forward has now become blocked by the rising waters. She's one of many, and in a few minutes their underground home will be submerged. Forced to evacuate, workers and soldiers try to save the larval young. As their nest floods, the colony seems to be doomed. But from chaos comes order. The far ants band together, each locking legs with its neighbours. They're building a living raft. Each ant is covered in fine hairs that trap air against its body. As the raft forms, this air creates a cushion for them all to float on. This is the power of the colony. By working together, they've become unsinkable. And no one gets left behind. Pulled from the shallows, the colony is now at the mercy of the flood. Holding tight to the larvae and keeping their queen hidden at the centre of the raft, the colony drifts into deeper water. Where they're vulnerable to fish that now swim through the flooded forest. Those that lose their grip must get back to the safety of the raft. He's a marine iguana. The only lizard in the world that gets its food from the sea. The seaweed on which he totally relies only grows in abundance here because of the nutrients brought by the Cromwell current. Once in the water, he has just 30 minutes to find food. Any longer than that, and his muscles will seize up and he'll drown. For like most reptiles, he can't handle the cold. Chilly water isn't a problem for a warm-blooded cormorant. She can swim in it all day, but can only hold her breath for a few minutes. On the other hand, completes his whole half-hour trip on one single breath. His flat face and sharp teeth make him an efficient seaweed cropping machine, but with the clock ticking, he must eat fast. The cormorant, having caught its fish, goes back to the surface. One last mouthful, and it's also time for the iguana to head for home. But to stop his muscles from seizing up in the cold water, he must get back quickly. So he could do without the attentions of an inquisitive sea lion. Dry land is now just 30 meters away, but the biggest hurdle is still to come. The surging water now fights against him. He's out. But he stayed in the cold so long that he's lost his strength. And he's made it.